Throughout the first 30 years of the 20th century in Puerto Rico, the island had new cultural and economic relationships with the United States. This relationship is possible to see in music, such as the song Señorita, which is a rumba foxtrot composed and recorded by Rafael Hernández, who in the first half of the 20th century became one of the most important Puerto Rican composers of popular music. Let's take a listen. Similar to his other compositions like Cachita and Cumbanchero, this musical piece reflects how Hernández was influenced by North American music such as ragtime, foxtrot, and early classic jazz due to his involvement with the Harlem Hellfighters military band and his stay in New York in the 1920s. This becomes clear in Señorita with its harmonious movement similar to a ragtime or a foxtrot. I do think that songs like Señorita tell a bigger story besides influences in the music of Puerto Rico. This song can tell us a story about sound and coloniality in Puerto Rico in the beginning of the 20th century. I want to demonstrate how multiple layers of power and colonialism were at work that affected the sonic and aesthetic tendencies and the musical practices of Puerto Rico. First, I want to provide a historical context of Puerto Rico in the beginning of the 20th century. Almost 2 decades after the invasion of the United States in Puerto Rico in 1898, Congress passed the Jones Act, which forced American citizenship on the people of Puerto Rico, making them draftable into the U.S. Armed Forces. A total of 17,855 Puerto Ricans served in World War I in various capacities. One of the most important, and for the purposes of this study, is as musicians and members of military bands. In the midst of World War I by April 1917, James Reese Europe was commanded to organize a military band and recruited 28 Afro-Puerto Rican musicians to participate in the 369th Regiment military band known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The regimental military band was an all-black regimental band that traveled to France as a moral support and provided duties to the French military. This band is usually accredited to bring jazz music to Europe.
One of the most decorated units during World War I was the black regiment known as the Harlem Hellfighters, a nickname given to the Army's 369th Infantry Regiment.
There were 28 Puerto Rican musicians who participated in James Reese Europe's military band, which means that Puerto Ricans had more than half of the musical seats in the ensemble. The Puerto Rican musicians that were recruited were used to a musical repertoire that was mostly musical genres such as danzas, boleros, pasodobles, and other types of Caribbean music. Let's take a listen to the musical piece Carmelillo, in which some musicians were part of the military band and compare it to the new North American music that they had to learn. Because of their musical experiences, Puerto Ricans had little exposition to North American music, which led to extensive rehearsal with their American bandmates to learn the new music. According to Cristobal Díaz Ayala's extensive catalog that discusses recorded Puerto Rican music, between 1900 and 1928, of the 622 songs recorded in Puerto Rico, there were only 3 foxtrot. So, what does colonialism have to do with music? If we go back to 1898, colonial powers were transferred from Spain to the United States in Puerto Rico. Due to 400 years of Spanish colonialism, Puerto Ricans conceived notions of race that were translated into their music. With the forced arrival of the United States, notions of race from the framework of the US were being transferred to Puerto Rico. This is why, from a coloniality of power perspective, the Puerto Rican musicians knew the access provided by playing the music of the new colonizers. This is clear in Noble Sisso's memoir when he talks about the salaries given to the Puerto Ricans in the Harlem Hellfighters. They were brought over here in salaries of from $35 to $40 per week in all expenses, which in 2023 has an equivalent of $959 a week. In this same year, the average weekly wage of plantation workers was $3.25 in 1917. With this, new power relations were being introduced in the form of music. Economic gains and epistemological values were added to North American music, and the Puerto Rican sonic identities are invisible in this context because they need to play like the Americans for them to live. Now hearing again Señorita by Rafael Hernández, I ask myself why Hernández wanted to write a foxtrot if he had successful bolero songs in the late 1920s. Instead of looking Señorita as in Hernández's influences in music, I argue that this song can demonstrate how economical values are added to music, meaning that there was economical access by playing music from the current colonizer, in this case, United States. For example, the introduction of Señorita can be similar to numerous ragtime songs in the US. I will finish this video by providing some examples and making you be the judge of this. Let's hear them.